Hello, hello, and welcome to Saturday Soundbites. I'm your host, Veronica Sofer, and I'm so excited to be here with you again on another fantastic episode where we talk all things visibility strategy. We talk about marketing, advertising, branding, public relations, networking, all of those things are going to help you build your visibility, that are going to reinforce your brand, and that are going to set you apart in your niche. That's absolutely one of the most important things you can do to grow your business. And I bring on experts and guests that are going to help you with techniques and strategies and show you new and innovative ways to do that. And sometimes that means getting on stage, sometimes that means getting in the media or building partnerships and collaboration. But no matter what it is you're doing, you have to show up, and you have to show up brilliantly. So if you're watching on the podcast or on listening to the podcast, make sure you hit subscribe. We want to make sure you don't miss any episodes. And if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, make sure you put some comments in there so my guest and I can come back and engage with you, and put hashtag replay if it's something we need to go back to, because we want to know when it is you catch the show. So we'll go ahead and get started. I have a phenomenal guest today. You guys are going to absolutely love him. He brings just so much wealth of information and expertise that this is really going to be an episode that you're going to want to take notes and go back and read the show notes whenever you can and click on those links. So with that, I'm going to bring up Ernie Boxall to the stage here. Ernie, did I pronounce your name correctly?
It's the American pronunciation. I would say Boxall.
Boxall.
That's it.
Very good.
But,
I love it. Well, I love the English way of saying it, so I will go with that. Well, thank you to the
you're
show.
fine, Veronica. I am actually an American at heart.
I love it. I love it. Yes, I did see your signature line on your email, so I love that. Well, thank you so much, and tell us a little bit about yourself and some of your expertise.
Well, I am Ernie Boxall, and I am a storyteller, and that means I tell historical stories. I tell my own stories, but I also help people tell their story. I do it in two ways. I have a webinar program called How to Shine Instead of Shiver when you face a live audience. And I also have a interview program, very much like your own, but it's called No Story Stagnates, where I take my guest through their life from before they were born by asking the question, do you know how your mother and father met? Because if people know how their mother and father met, they know their story from before they were born. And then we go through the decades with the story and the lesson taken from each story. So at the end of the interview, we have a virtual life story and lessons learnt.
I love that. That's fantastic.
It's been phenomenal.
Yeah,
that's I am a storyteller, and basically, Veronica, it started way, way back in the 1950s when in our house, we weren't allowed to talk at the dinner table at all. We ate in silence. When my father came home at work, we weren't allowed to talk because he was very tired. When I went to bed, I shared a room with my brother who was 5 years younger, so we didn't talk. When I went to school, I kept being told to shut up. And when I went into the factory, nobody could hear me. So I tell people that I didn't really start to talk until I was about 21 years old and best man. I do say best man at a hooker's wedding.
Now you got me there. Now I want to know more.
It was a rugby player, a New Zealand rugby hooker. And I was best man at a wedding. He was marrying the daughter of a local Chamber of Commerce chairman. So my first presentation was to 140 business owners and their guests in a marquee. And I did then unconsciously what I try to mentor people to do now, which is my 4 Ps of perfect presentation. I prepared it, Veronica. You can bet that I spent 3 months preparing that presentation. And then I practiced it. And I practiced it until I could say it down with bullet points. And on the day because I pretty much nailed the first two, I was able to stand up, shoulders back, tall, with the posture of someone who's confident.
Mm-hmm.
Now, inside, my stomach was churning,
Of course.
but my posture was confident.
Mm-hmm.
And the fourth P is I performed.
Mm-hmm.
It was a performance, and I received a standing ovation. And that was the first time in my life that I felt that I'd found something that I was really good at.
Mm-hmm. That's
Now,
remarkable.
that performance has allowed me to be a semi-professional soccer coach with less ability than any of the players, but I could speak to them on their level. I've been a supply teacher with no teacher training because I could speak to the lower form children on their level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And in fact, I went through some of your earlier podcasts, Veronica, and there was one, Brienne Hennessy,
Yes.
the voice coach.
Yes.
And in business, I started in business about 20 years ago, going to network meetings. And after a very short time, I noticed that many of these new business owners would stand up in front of the crowd. They would walk to the front, turn round, put their hands in their pockets or behind the back, or start to rub them together, and it would be good morning, I am John Davis from Davis Works Management. I am a business coach, and I will take your business from the where you are
Yep.
and I thought, you're not going to be my business coach. And that's where I knew that this ability to prepare your presentation, practice it, then stand up with the right posture and perform was going to be vital for business owners. And of course, now, post the virus, people are having to be confident looking into the camera because it's a different technique altogether.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But you still have to be confident with using your voice.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I can see definitely where CEOs and people who are in the sales space, they would engage someone with that expertise. But you mentioned something that was very poignant, and that is that business has changed.
Yes.
And talk to us a little bit about how you have seen the need for this in an exchange just like ours. We're literally
Yes.
across an ocean,
Yes.
but we're still engaged. Talk to us a little about that, because that's so important for business owners.
It has been so important to not just my business, Veronica, but my life, because I was running a storytelling group as a business where we would bring storytellers, authors, poets, and musicians to a live audience in Leamington Spa, where I live, and they would perform to a live audience. And I did that for 4 years, and it was very successful. And then, of course, the virus closed the venue. So I thought that was the end of my storytelling business. And then I found a group called the Worldwide Virtual Storytelling Guild in America, which I joined. And instead of telling my stories to 20 people, 30 people, 40 people in a room, I was telling it to the same number of people all around the world through these little boxes.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it just takes that technique of being comfortable with your preparation, the fact that you've practiced your story, that you can perform your story with an authoritative posture.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Very much, as I say, I think coming into where Brienne was talking about the use of the voice. Where I would perhaps differ a little bit is that what the Storytelling Guild offered me was the chance to keep practicing my voice, so that last year I actually obtained the role of Wilfred, the warden. And I'm a ghost guide, you see, Veronica. I take people around the most haunted house in England, and it's in Stratford-on-Avon, Shakespeare's country. I can do that. I'm also Erin, the wizard, where I talk to children about the dragons and the headless knights that wander the streets of Warwick and Stratford. And I'm also Santa, of
I
course.
can see that.
And so this ability to change my role, and with every role, change my voice, my actions, but still be authentically, I think, me,
Mhm. Mhm.
which was very much what Brienne was talking about.
Mhm. Mhm.
But it does take preparation and practice.
Mhm.
The business owners who go into a network meeting or into a meeting and say they wing their presentation. When I go to a network meeting, I sometimes ask a business owner when he entered the room, when did you come in? And they'll look at their watch and they say 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago.
Mhm.
I actually came into the room 3 days ago when I prepared my 60-second presentation. If I'm doing a 40-minute, what do they call it?
A
Stage,
keynote?
yeah, keynote. If I'm doing a
Mhm.
40-minute keynote, then that will have been practiced 2 weeks ago and prepared. If I'm doing workshops, that would be practiced a month ago. It's all about thinking about that presentation beforehand
Mhm.
and then preparing it and practicing it so that you can deliver it to the room.
Mhm.
And I think this is where stories come in, Veronica, because you know yourself, you can go to a network meeting with your business cards, and one meeting will be full of bankers, lawyers, accountants, and you'll hand your business card over with your details on. The next meeting will be tradesmen, plumbers, builders. You hand over your same business card. But with this, what I call my Audible business card, you can change the words you say to
Mhm.
each group to match the group.
Mhm. Yeah. Know your audience. I love that.
Absolute.
Mhm. Mhm. That's fantastic.
That's what I try to bring over to my clients and to the people who come and listen to me speak.
Mhm. Mhm. And what about when you're working with a client, especially a business owner who says, "Ernie, that's great and I can practice and I can build my confidence and my posture, but I'm not a performer." How do you help people find the inner performer when they're pretty much stuck in the mindset that they're not one?
If we can meet one to one, then obviously it's a lot easier because we can go through role play. I can video their presentation and then we can look at tips, body posture. I often favour, when you're talking to an audience, being sideways on,
Mm,
because a cameraman, a photographer told me that when you're like this, the lens you're bouncing straight back.
mhm, mhm.
So that's almost confrontational. But if
Interesting.
you sit like this, then it's more circular.
Ah, yes.
So you very often see when people have their photos taken, they're most often sort of one shoulder forward, sideways on, because it's much less confrontational than this.
Yes, it absolutely is. Definitely you can see the welcoming, almost
Yes,
the flow for those of us who like the flow of energy and all those kinds of things. That's absolutely important. And so do you feel like when we're on video that those same techniques apply when we're Zooming with people, or do you feel like in person the body language is just different?
No, I don't. I love when I interview people. I love to be when I remember. You know, there are. I don't know everything there is to know
Mm-hmm.
about their business,
Mm-hmm.
but I do know quite a few things very well,
Sure. Sure.
and I do like to interview people and to talk to people like this.
Mm-hmm.
To be honest, Veronica, I've been a boxer, I've been a fighter, I've been confrontational for quite a few years of my life. And it was 20 years ago when I hit rock bottom. The business that I was in had failed. My partner had left me because I was not a very good father. I'd become too concentrated on my work and I'd put the family second.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm the luckiest man alive because my partner still talks to me and my kids love me. I know so many business owners, men in particular, who have lost that.
Mm-hmm.
And so my attitude changed then. I actually found Tai Chi and Shiatsu therapy, which pretty much deadened that competitive edge that forced or that made me, didn't force me, I did of my own volition,
Mm-hmm.
that made me go out 4 days a week coaching football.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Life became much, much more flowing
Yes.
after, and I still do Tai Chi, still do Shiatsu, which kept me more flexible now than I was in my 30s, in my mind and in my body.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, that's amazing. And I think a lot of business owners think that reading leadership books and going to workshops and
Yeah.
building all of this, while yeah, absolutely, it's important. There
Yes.
are other parts of developing your leadership and your ability to incorporate your body into
That's
that
it.
really
That's it.
affects your voice. And I love that example.
Yes.
Hmm.
I'm listening to a lot of American podcasts now, and particularly I've been drawn to Jocko Willink
Oh,
and his message that a leader really shouldn't be after shout at the people in the organization. He should involve them. They
hmm,
should be part of the scheme, part of working out what needs to be done next. And that's very much how I like to work with my clients and my friends.
hmm, hmm. Yeah.
I am, if people looked at if I gave the story of my business life, it's very much a roller coaster, Veronica. But now, through Zoom and through being able to connect with people around the world, particularly in America, I have so many people who are willing to help.
Hmm.
And I think that's another benefit of us going online as well.
Hmm.
As you say, connecting across the ocean.
Absolutely. And commerce is global, and corporations have been doing it for many, many years. But
Yes.
entrepreneurs and small business owners, we haven't had the luxury because we didn't have the tools, and now we
Yeah.
do. And the tips you've given us really speak to how you can leverage your
Yes.
voice, leverage your authenticity, to grow your brand. And I love the way that you've got strategies for storytelling development, because that's where a lot of entrepreneurs get stuck,
Yes.
the
Yes.
development stage.
To for the people who watch us, Veronica, I mean, as I go back to no story stagnates, it can be used for life or business. If we were being interviewed now, I would say, Veronica, do you know how your mother and father met? Or I could say, Veronica, what were you doing 1 week before what you're doing now? How did what you're doing now start? Could you tell us how you started? What were you doing 1 week before you started doing what you're doing now?
Yeah. That's an interesting question because it really makes you think back,
Yes.
and you almost have to, because if it was not strategic or written out or there was a plan, you have to really go back into your mind to think about that.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I don't know that, I mean, thinking about a week, I was definitely recording and going live on Saturday Soundbites. That's exactly what I was doing a week ago, and to
Ah,
get me prepared for now, there was probably some processes that I wasn't cognizant of.
right. What I'd say, Veronica, what I meant was, what were you doing 1 week before you started
Ah,
doing what you're doing now? Let's go right back. What was your previous job?
hmm. Well, I was certainly I was certainly wanting to do this and had a little dream. So I'm still doing the other, but it was
Yeah.
budding and growing, and I think I probably, like, at the start it just kind of blossomed, and one day I chose to. So it was a lot of dreaming about it
Yeah.
until I did it.
Great. And so even that question offers the chance to go back and think about, how did it start? Because that's important.
Mhm. Mhm. Absolutely.
And then we work through what was the first month like, what was the second month like, what lessons did you learn. And so I think in both ways, in telling your own story and telling your business story, it allows people to go back and remember some of the times when things went right and some of the times when things went wrong.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that, and the ability to reflect, right? Because we don't appreciate, I mean, we
Yeah.
appreciate the excitement. When you asked me that question and I went back there, I got excited and I
Yeah.
could feel the emotion, but
Yes.
then there were hiccups
Yeah.
and there were challenges, and in hindsight, they probably weren't as dramatic as I thought they were in the moment.
But the thing is, Veronica, with that lesson, you can talk to an audience who are new startups who went through or are going through the same issues you're talking about. And they will be, for the want of a better word, they're the low hanging fruit.
Right.
They're the people who will come to you after the meeting and say, I really, really resonated. Can we have a one to one? You won't have to chase them,
Mhm.
they will come to you.
Yes. Yes, and that's that authenticity.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's come full circle, and I see the connection now, and you got me there. I love that there is a way to tell your story and not sell your story. That's really,
Absolutely.
I love that. That's fantastic.
If I can just give one example,
Please.
Veronica, I
Please.
interviewed a lady called Doha, and her story was at 11 years old, around that time. She was playing happily with her friends. She went indoors, and her mum and dad put her to bed. And at 2 a.m., 3 a.m., they ran into the bedroom, grabbed a suitcase, dragged her out of bed. The Iraqis were attacking Kuwait. They had to take her with a suitcase with what they'd been able to pick up. They travelled across to Jordan. And in Jordan, her mother and Doha got onto a plane to Egypt. Their father got onto a boat. And so they arrived in Egypt not knowing whether they'd ever see their father again.
Mm,
Doha is now an international connector and businesswoman. But what a story.
mm.
She could have given me a business card and it would have been in my drawer. I'll never forget her name.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so profound, and as when you said that, I thought, what a missed opportunity when we don't share that about us.
Yes,
Wow. Yeah, no,
that
that's
is my why.
mhm. I can see that. I can see that. Do you have any other nuggets, like, something similar that a business owner can take? Because that hit me hard. I will definitely be thinking about that at my next networking event.
Right.
We're starting to network in person,
Yes.
here. And I just had 2 events in the last few weeks, and I passed out plenty of business cards. And I'm thinking now, did I share anything that was really memorable in
Right.
my encounters? And I don't know that I did. And so, Ernie, I
No.
guarantee you that I will next week when I go to my next one.
Wonderful, right? Wonderful. Now, that would be my nuggets would be prepare, practice, posture, perform.
Oh, fantastic. Guys, if you didn't write that down, don't worry, they're in the show notes. Ernie, how can people work with you? How can we get more of these great tips and strategies and connect?
My website, as you have there, Veronica, www.erniesaid.info. I'm on LinkedIn as Ernie Boxall. I'm on Facebook, Getter, all of the platforms that are available now. But if people interview me, or if people are interviewed for No Story Stagnates, we do an interview, it goes onto a podcast, and then we split it into small 30-second chunks that can be used on LinkedIn, because
Ah,
nobody will watch a video for an hour on LinkedIn,
sure, sure.
but you will have years of content through 30-second snippets.
Oh, that's fantastic. Ernie, you have really opened my mind and got me thinking about how I can really show up more
Yeah.
authentically, and definitely share my story. So I thank you personally, because I feel like I got a great one-on-one coaching session from you.
Thank you, Veronica. It's been a real pleasure.
Oh, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Guys, if you haven't already taken note, I definitely want you to check out his website. Ernie has a plethora of information and resources. His experience is phenomenal, and you can see how authentically he shows up. And when you are working your business, whether you're an entrepreneur or a traditional brick and mortar business, a consultant, any of those kinds of roles, you definitely need to be able to practice, show up, be prepared, and do all the things that he said to do, so that you can grow in your own development, because that's what it's all about. It all reflects on your brand, because your brand is your promise. So with that, I want to make sure that I remind you to click subscribe if you're listening to our podcast. And if you are watching on Facebook, just hashtag replay, so we know you caught the episode, and Ernie and I can go back and connect it with you. I am sending you lots of positive energy and light. And